Hey there, tech enthusiast. Get ready for Tech Ties and Human Vibes, the podcast where technology in the AI era meets the human touch. All right, you're listening to another episode of Tech Ties and Human Vibes with myself, Adam Nelson, Nancy Henriquez, and we have with us today Steve Taylor from Alternative Payments. Steve, we know where you're from. Well, we know what you do, I guess I should say. We don't know where you're from. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and maybe how you got there. And just to preface this, if anybody's watching this video and Nancy drops out, it's because the shower that she's currently in doesn't have great internet reception.
Oh, I love that you called that out. She's not in a shower, guys, but I asked her if she was.
It looks like it. I'm just saying. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I put a chair in it, just to be on this. I multitask. Okay?
That's perfect. Hi, guys. So, hi, I'm Steve. You have possibly heard of me because I started doing these like webinars and podcasts. Gosh, like 8 years ago, I started doing this stuff. So I've got like hundreds of videos up on my own YouTube. So I've got a lot of love for folks like you who are continuing to do all of this cool content for MSPs. About me, let's see. Was born on a cold day in December in Cleveland. That's probably too.
That was probably a bad day, actually. Yeah, Cleveland.
Yeah, it's probably too far back, huh? All right. So high school, I went to a vocational school.
Go outside during that
time. No. I've lived in Northeast Ohio my whole life. Yeah.
So, Steve, what brought you into the IT world?
Oh man. So I was, earlier I said, high school I went to vocational school, kind of as a joke. So I'm going to try and condense this as much as possible. I've always been fascinated by technology. I was born in the end. I told you it was December. It was 2 days after Christmas. It was in the early 1980s. So you have an idea of how old or young I am, depending on your view of that age range. And so I was always fascinated by technology. I remember having I think we had an Atari or something when I was little. And then I remember when we got the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. And then, so I went through the whole video game phase throughout my entire elementary through high school career. I wish I still had time for them. I wish I still enjoyed them the way I used to, because I enjoy the idea of them. But screaming at 12-year-olds in Call of Duty is not what I consider a good time on a Friday night. So
times have changed.
So that was like that, right? And then I remember I was like, I don't know, 6, 8. I was young, okay, when we got our first computer. Now we're still talking 80s, right? And I don't remember when things came out, but I remember it was an IBM or an IBM clone. I remember it was an 80286, and I remember we had a dot matrix printer, and I don't remember much else from that because I have a terrible memory when it comes to certain things, but I've got a fantastic memory when it comes to others. But I remember that one, my mom got a mouse for it one day. We had no mouse. Guys, this was before the mouse existed. Okay. And then suddenly she comes home with a mouse. And I had this game that she somehow got. It was like a shareware game. And then we'll have to talk about shareware in a minute. And then it used the internal, it wasn't a speaker, it was that awful beeping thing. Yeah. But it would turn it into different tones, so it would change what key it was doing, right? Like a piano. Wherever you put the mouse on the screen, it was changing it. And I think after 20 minutes, my mom unplugged the mouse and took it away. So, so fast forward. Fast forward to 4th through 6th grade time frame. And I remember we had a Packard Bell 486 DX2 Again, I don't remember how much RAM or hard drive storage or anything, but it was small, you know.
No,
But
I bet.
I was playing Doom and Doom 2 like a lot. And then my mom bought this, it was like this 4 CD set. It was called Shareware Extravaganza. And it had all of these like free and like trial games on it. So I would, and like all kinds of other software too, like, you know, nerdy things that adults wanted to use. But I remember playing like Commander Keen and all these other cool games that I found because of the Shareware Extravaganza CD set. But my big thing was I was playing like Doom 1 and Doom 2. And then I remember starting to create my own, they were called Doom WADs, WAD. It was the file type. And it was basically building your own like map and level packs using some like WAD editor. So that was my first foray, if you will, into like tinkering. And then I decided to tinker more and I took the computer apart. And I didn't know how to put it back together, but I really wanted to see what all the things were like inside. She was so mad. My mom was so mad. She she wouldn't let me use it for 2 weeks. It took her like 4 hours to figure out how to put it all back together. She's worked in manufacturing for gosh over 45 years now. So like she was able to figure it out because she's a pretty smart cookie. Side note, because ADD is fun. A few years ago, I was visiting my mom, and she's very meticulous about like where things go. Being in manufacturing, she's got tons of tools. Like she's got a drawer just for like pliers and a drawer just for screwdrivers and whatever, right? She's got like this whole workbench. And you open the drawer, and everything's like, here's this plier, here's this plier. Like everything's neat
That's
in its
nice.
place in this drawer, right? Like it's incredible. So she goes out and she's like working on something in her house one day, and she says, "Hey, go out to my toolbox, third drawer down, grab me a set of pliers." So I open this drawer, and there's like 12 different things that all look like pliers to me. But some I know are needle nose, some have the nose where they're bent and crooked. Some have like the snub nose. Like there's all kinds of different pliers. So I'm like, just pick a set of pliers. She's like, thanks, but why'd you bring me wire snippers? They were the kind that had the little blades on the inside of the pliers.
Oh yeah.
So those were wire cutters and not pliers. They looked like pliers to me. So
look the
anyway,
same.
back to all that to say, she was able to figure out how to put this computer back together, even though she's not the one that took it apart. So fast forward, we move around a few times, and like every new school system, they put like a typing class in a different place. So I took typing class 4 different times at 4 different school systems. So right now, even with arthritis, I can hit about 111 words per minute. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
At my
pretty
peak, yeah, at my peak, I was about 125, 130. I've always wondered what would happen if I switched to like a Dvorak keyboard or one of those other like optimized keyboards. But I'm so ingrained in QWERTY, I just don't think I could do it at this point. But I've always wondered, like, how much faster could I get if I had an optimized keyboard, But anyway, so at one point, like in high school, I'm in yet another typing class, and I get an entire 9 weeks, an entire quarter worth of classwork done in about 3 or 4 days. Like it was the first week, and I had all of it done because it was literally like, here's a page, you have to type it, and it's going to test you on the speed. And then it had a few other things you had to do. So I literally just kept going through them. And other kids were like retaking them to see like if they could get a better score. But every single one I did was like 110, 120, 115. I was like, I don't even care. So I just kept going to the next lesson. And the next thing I know, I'm out of lessons. So then I'm like the teacher's assistant for the rest of the quarter, and I'm walking around helping the kids like they're stuck and they don't know what to do, and the teacher can only help so many kids at once because there's like 25, 30 kids in this classroom, right? So now I'm the teacher's assistant for the rest of this class, and that was fun. I really enjoyed doing that. It made me feel powerful. Fast forward a couple years, I go to this vocational school, and at this school, I'm in a 2-year program where I'm supposed to learn Cisco, where at the end of the 2 years, I'm supposed to take my Cisco Certified Network Administrator, CCNA test. And at the end of the first year, I was supposed to take my Novell NetWare 5 test. So you've probably heard of that, right? Novell? Everyone's heard
Yeah,
of
it's been a
Novell.
while since I've heard that name, but yeah.
I can't tell if you're bluffing or not.
I've never heard of it. Nancy probably has, but I've never heard of it.
So I'll give you guys a real date, okay? 2001 is when I took my Novell NetWare 5 CNA test. I passed it with flying colors. And then in 2001, 2002, I took my A plus, and back then it was a 2-part test. One was hardware, one was software. I scored higher than my teacher on both of those, which he said, if anyone scores higher than me, I'll give you guys gift certificate for dinner and a movie kind of thing. So I got 2 dinners and 2 movies out of him.
Nice.
He didn't go with me though. Like I didn't have a friend to go with me. So, I'm kidding. So that happened, but I did not pass my CCNA. The first year it was taught by a woman who did like Cisco for college, and then she switched to high school. So she was very like hands off. Here's 13 assignments. Have them all done by tomorrow. I'm like, what? There's no way. So I would do questions 1 through 4. He would do questions 5 through 8. She would do and that's how we did it. Because there was no way for us to do all this and the rest of our homework. And it was great. We all got good grades on our classwork, and we failed miserably on every test. So, and then I remember one day, because I'm taking this Novell network course, I'm like logging in at school, and I'm like, we use Novell for the school network, because why wouldn't you? Novell is the #1 network software in the world, right? So we use Novell here at school, not Microsoft. So Novell at the time, you could look through a list of users. It was just wide open. And I found a substitute teacher user. Okay, cool. Wonder if I could just guess the password. So one guess later of the initials of the school, and I'm in. So for 3-ish days, I'm just having a blast logging in as a substitute teacher whenever I'm done with my classwork. And so I go into all these other programs. There's an AutoCAD program there. So I was in their shared folders. I'm just looking around. I want to see what a real network is like. I'm not trying to screw with anyone's stuff, but I found they had made using AutoCAD some 3D Tetris clone kind of game, just as let's learn how to use AutoCAD and do something cool. So I was playing that for 30 minutes one day, and then one day I stumbled upon the teacher's handbook. So I'm just kind of reading that board in class, and my teacher yells my name, very unhappy, and I'm like, yeah, minimize my handbook that I'm reading, because I needed to know everything the teachers know. Minimize the handbook. She's like, I need you to step out into the hall. So I step out of the hall. I'm sitting there, and the IT administrator comes over. He's like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" I'm like, "What?" It's like, "You're hacking our network." I'm like, no. So he takes me down to the principal's office, and I explain, look, I'm not hacking. Okay, I guess technically, in the spirit of the law, though, I wasn't hacking. I was just perusing. I was just looking around. I'm not trying to do anything malicious, but our sample network is really boring, and you guys have a cool network. So I just want to look around and see what a Novella network is like. And they did not give me any trouble. In fact, the response was, if you find any other issues with our network, please bring them to our attention.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
The following year, they hired me. And I worked there for the summer, right after I graduated, and I was doing all kinds of stuff. This was back when I was skinny and my neck moved. This is my range of motion now. So back then, I was literally crawling through rafters. We ran 1,200 Ethernet cables. We built out this whole new wing for the technology department because they were completely expanding technology. Why they didn't do that before I signed up to be a student there, whatever. They started doing Microsoft after I graduated, jerks. But yeah, so I ran all these network cables. I unboxed 400 Dell computers. I got to use Norton Ghost until my fingers bled, and it was a really fun experience. And then after that, I went into computer and equipment sales for a few years. And then I joined what was an MSP, but at the time that wasn't a term yet. I was there for a few years. And then I started my own MSP. Back in 2009, I started my company. At the time, it was called IT Works. And then after a few years, people started asking me if I sell body wraps. So there's this MLM, multi-level marketing company called It Works. And they sell these stupid wraps that you put around yourself, and supposedly fat just melts off of you, right?
Oh my
So
gosh.
I ended up changing my company name because I was sick of those questions. So then, Taylor IT Group is born, and then, I start doing all these webinars. So I form Rocket MSP, and that's a thing. And then, the late 2019, before the pandemic, I'm really starting to, I don't know, feel a little uneasy. And honestly, it's because it's starting to feel harder and harder to keep up with things. I never wanted to have a big MSP. I never wanted to have employees. That sounded like a lot of responsibility to be, I didn't want to be responsible for somebody else's livelihood. You know what I mean? So I never wanted to deal with that. Plus, I was of the opinion that nobody else could do things as good as me, and that's probably not the right mindset to have. But you know how it is. Like you have things, you do them a set way. There are 15 different ways to set up a Windows computer, right? I'm just pulling a number out of my rear. I don't know the actual number, but not all 15 of them are wrong, but I have my one way that I like to do it.
Yeah.
So if this guy does it a different way, it's not that his way is wrong. I just don't like his way. And I don't like him because he does it wrong. And I didn't want to deal with that. So I never brought people on. I kept my MSP small, nimble. I started to actually focus on a niche, a really weird one. I started supporting funeral homes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I got referred into one, and then another one just kind of reached out to me. I'm like, okay, this is a thing. They both used the same software at the time. It was called Director's Assistant. So then I'm like, hey, if I just keep focusing on funeral homes, I could be like the funeral home MSP for Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
That sounded cool. But then cybersecurity started to become more and more of a thing. And then funeral homes, even though the people are dead, they were starting to require more and more with HIPAA. And then I'm like, I don't have, I've got enough clients that I'm already doing 8 to 10 hours of stuff a day for my clients, just, checking in, making sure everyone's happy. I don't have more time to invest in training because at that point, in 2017, we adopted 2 kids. They were our foster kids, great kids. Our daughter's 19 now, our son's 13. They're siblings. And, but back in 2017, that was a lot more work. What is he? He's maybe going into kindergarten back then. My brain hurts. No, he was going into preschool in 2017, and she was going into maybe high school. I don't know. So it was a lot to, manage a family and manage an MSP. And then I've got all this new cybersecurity stuff I really need to learn up on. And then I wasn't enjoying the MSP stuff anymore. I wasn't enjoying all of the harder decisions I was needing to make because of all the cybersecurity situation stuff happening in the world. So I started focusing more on the podcast webinar side of things. And then I started to wind down my MSP. Eventually, kind of shut it all down in the last few years, and I joined the dark side. Um, so I started working at vendors, and we don't need to talk about the other vendors before this. They're not bad people. They're not bad companies. It just you know things happen, and we move on.
Yeah,
Right now, I'm at alternative payments, and I love it.
Nice. Nice.
that's awesome.
What do you do there?
Um, my
And
boss
what is
keeps asking
alternative
the same
payments?
question.
I should ask what is alternative payments as well.
So, alternative payments is there's two different ways to describe it, right? When I'm talking to my friends who aren't IT nerds, I tell people we give IT companies like what I used to have a payment portal. Like when you log on to the gas company or the electric company, you just pay your bill, right? You can update your payment information, you can set up auto pay, look at your invoices. We give MSPs all that. That way, they're not emailing an invoice from QuickBooks and waiting for a check to come in. When I'm talking to an MSP, I try to get a little more technical because what we do is really powerful. It's accounts receivable automation. So you create your invoice in the PSA, and then you sync it over to QuickBooks, or we integrate with more accounting packages than any other MSP payment portal today. So everything from like QuickBooks Online and Desktop to Xero to even FreshBooks to Dynamics CRM and NetSuite. And, there's a few others. So like we integrate with a whole gamut of products, and then we also integrate with the PSAs. So the invoice gets created typically with the PSA. Like let's say ConnectWise, you email the invoice from ConnectWise, and then you sync it over to QuickBooks, and then they mail you a check 19 weeks later. You're so grateful that they finally sent it to you. Yes, they remembered. And then,
Sometimes you got to call them and hunt them down, like
that was my least favorite part of running an MSP because I have a fear of rejection, so I didn't like selling. And two, I didn't like saying, "Where's my money?"
Yeah.
Now, my one buddy, his motto was, I'm going to censor it. F you, pay me.
yeah.
My motto was, please, could I have some more? Uh, so what we do is, if you've got ConnectWise PSA, we actually have a QuickBooks Online sync tool now, so we can sync your invoice from ConnectWise to QuickBooks, and it actually functions, unlike some of the other ones. And then we will send out the invoice. We'll email it to the customer for you. It'll have your logo, your branding, whatever, and then the customer can pay it. They'll log onto the portal and pay it. We will mark the invoice paid both in the PSA and in QuickBooks. And then when the deposit is made, there's a little checkbox for QuickBooks Online. You just check the little box. It says create deposits. And then what happens is our software will create the deposit in QuickBooks, and then it'll associate any of the payments that are included in that deposit. And then one of the features that I find really cool is we are able to make it so the MSP can pass the credit card fees off to their clients. So I know that's becoming a thing, right? So you know, again, I'm not going to throw shade at any major software distributors or anything. But there's a right way and a wrong way to pass the credit card fees onto your customers. I'm not telling MSPs that they have to or how to do it. I'm just saying you can if that's your thing. If you want to save the 3% ish on those fees, you can pass it to customers. And then we've even got the ability to granularly manage that. So you can say, oh, well, I made a sweetheart deal with ABC company. So that way they would sign a contract. I told them we'd waive all the credit card fees. So you can exclude certain companies from that, or you can just say if somebody pays with a credit card for auto pay, then we can waive the fees. So if they auto pay their invoice every month, but they're using a credit card, you can waive the fees just automatically.
I love
So
that.
you set
See,
all
I'm
that
a
up.
huge proponent of yes, you should charge them the fees because you're not a bank.
Right.
Um, So I love that, but I also love the fact that you can use it as a negotiating tool.
Hmm. I like
It's
that too.
like that is, yeah. I love that, I think, the most because that is something that it should be a benefit for some, use it as a negotiating tool. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, obviously I came up with that idea all on my own, patent pending, trademarked. Uh,
Obviously, obviously. Now,
no,
do you offer options like ACH payment? To where there isn't a fee, or the fee is much lower.
actually, yes. In fact, we encourage MSPs to push ACH. Um, I, I'm going to make a joke, but please don't take this the wrong way. I'm sure there's some, dark, seedy reason why, like the big evil CEO overlords of business want you to do ACH for some, dastardly reason, right? I don't think so in our company. We don't charge ACH fees at all.
No.
Like ACH is completely free. And we just, we want to make it so nobody's paying fees. You're already paying to use the software. We don't
Yeah.
want you to have to pay just to take money. And that's the other differentiator between us and some of the other payment platforms. Like everything is included in the subscription. So your subscription is based on like how much you're processing every month,
Yeah.
because we do pay money based on how much you're processing, even if it's ACH. We're just not charging you an ACH fee on top of the subscription. But yeah, how it works is the credit card processing is included, the ACH is included, the portal is included. Um, Basically everything that we do around accounts receivable, that's all included. And then we're starting to create more add-ons, like we've got a collections assist. Like if you need to send somebody to collections, we've got the ability to help with that.
Oh, that's a nice feature.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't recommend it because that's a relationship ending, right? That's a
Yeah.
last resort. But if you need it, it's there.
Right.
It
Um,
happens.
it
It
does.
happens. I've had it happen, and I was reading on Reddit that somebody was asking, it's been over 90 days and I haven't been able to collect payment. Should I shut down their emails and their access and all these things? And it's
Hmm.
like that it happens, right? Like what do you do in those situations? Well, it's like, well, the only recourse that you do have at that point, especially if someone is not willing to work with you on that, is to send them to collections. So, it
Yeah.
happens.
Another thing that we have that we don't really advertise a whole lot because I don't know, we're not trying to be like that company, so to speak. But one thing we have is I'm going to call it buy now, pay later. It's not quite financing. Think of it more like a firm or Klarna or some of those things where like, you can spread it out across a few
Mhm.
months.
Yeah.
So it's negligible. I think it's between like 3 and 7% for your customer, which is
Mm.
nothing, right?
Yeah, that's
And
really
and
cool,
you
especially
can,
for those big projects.
yeah. So you can offer up to net 150 to your customers.
Hmm.
The MSP gets paid right away. The customer, they get dinged every month like they would on a payment plan, and then we just keep that payment because we already paid you. So everything happens on the back end. You get your money, your invoice gets reconciled, and everything is copacetic for you. For the customer, they still get their monthly payment plan for what is that, 5 months, 150 days. And then everything reconciles for them nicely because it's just the 5 months worth of payments. Um, that was our plan, is let's just figure out how to make this as easy as possible for
It's actually
everybody.
really nice. Another nice added feature, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not there for like, multi-million dollar deals or anything. It's, you got a client who needs a few computers or a server or two, and they need to manage their own cash flow, right? Because we are all about helping MSPs manage their cash flow. And a good MSP, once you've got your cash flow tightened up, you're going to start helping your clients manage their cash flow as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you can help them avoid those those interest charges, or whatever you want to call them, the 3 to 7% fee, um, obviously that's better if they can avoid all that. But if they need to spread it across a few months and they don't have a big enough American Express credit line, or theirs is a charge card and requires to be paid off every 30 days or whatever, like, we want to give MSPs options. That
So
way
are you
you
all?
don't.
Oh,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Are you all international or just national?
So today we are US only. Um, I hope I'm not going to get myself in trouble. In
I
the
hope
next,
you
you hope I do. Okay, in the next month-ish, 30-ish days, we're going to launch in another country.
do. Very
Some
nice.
might call it a higher country than the United States for multiple reasons. How do
I
you like
wonder
that
if I can
callback?
piece this together. So I'm
Maybe.
in Kelowna, British Columbia in Canada right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe I have a few things, especially when I'm thinking of it being higher. It is a
Mhm.
higher elevation. It is a higher up than the United States,
Latitude.
right?
Yep.
Exactly.
You can just
Thank
feel
you.
higher while you're there too, right?
And
Probably.
it's
Something's in
possible
the
as
air.
well.
Yeah, there's just something in the air. You just walk around every now and then, you smell it.
Yep,
Jeez.
exactly. Yeah, my son is walking around with me while we're here, and he's like, "What is that skunky smell?"
That is incredible. How old's your son?
So yeah, could be.
How old is your son?
How old's Angel?
He's 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He knows what it is.
He does. He does.
Yeah, he knows what it is.
That's funny.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I'm
I
like,
smell that
just
smell.
plug your nose.
I smell that smell all the time in Georgia. All the time. It's
Yeah,
very common.
yeah. So I thought of a fun analogy for you guys. Adopting kids is like running an MSP.
How so?
So when you take on a new client, they've already got a network. Whether it's in shambles or it was managed well, they've already got computers and servers and Microsoft 365 and everything else, right? You just have to figure it all out. Sometimes it's well documented. Sometimes here's an admin password. Best of luck to you. Like you have no
Yeah.
idea what you're walking into. Well, when we were foster parents, every single time we fostered a new kid, it was just like that. Whether they were a newborn who, the parent, the mom, gave birth in jail, and the child had to be taken away, or they were kids where the parents did something they shouldn't have, regardless of what that is. um, they've all got some trauma, right? They've all got computers that are still running Windows 10 and they should have upgraded to Windows 11 by now, and you got to figure out how to fix that
Yeah.
issue for those kids. And sometimes, when you're just fostering, you might only have them for a few days or a few weeks, and you don't really have time to fix the problems. But what you can do is, you can sit down with the end user or with the decision maker, and you can just reassure them that, hey, everything's going to be okay. And like, somebody is going to fix this for you. Might not be me, but somebody will. And then,
I love
when you
that.
adopt them,
That's good.
you get to be the one that takes over the full-time network management of these kids, and that does mean parental controls on all their devices.
Oh, 100%. I
Yeah.
love that analogy. That's one thing that when I had my MSP, I used to tell my technicians all the time. It is just forget about the technical aspect first. You have to think
Mhm.
about the person first. Where are they coming from? A lot of the times they're coming from, like you just said, like they're experiencing some sort of trauma with their previous provider. Otherwise, they wouldn't be leaving. And so, because of that, it's like have some empathy with them. Take your time to address what their immediate concerns are. Let them reassure them, let them know it is okay. But then that's why your onboarding process needs to be on point.
We'll edit this in post.
Like
It'll
I
all
was
make sense
talking
now.
earlier that
You
like
broke up there a bit. We
I
caught what you were
talked
saying, but
earlier.
you broke up a little bit.
Oh,
We missed
okay,
we
okay.
missed entire paragraphs.
Fine.
The
You
shower
just blanked.
reception is really dropping, really
Yeah.
dropping.
You gotta angle the shower head just right to improve the reception in there. It's like remember
Right?
the
Yeah.
old rabbit ears on TVs, like
Yep.
I remember it wasn't me, thank God. We didn't have rabbit ears. My mom paid for cable. But I remember other kids like would have to stand there and just like touch the antennas in just certain
That's
spots.
like me.
And then
That's me. I'm
and then
other
dad
kid.
would be like, "All right, now just stay there so I can see the game."
Oh, you just described my whole childhood.
Oh
Oh
my
man.
gosh.
That's the life of the
So
baby.
what I was saying was like the onboarding process has to be on point when you are an MSP and taking over for someone else. In that case, to not only go through that process in a way that is easy for the customer, but that addresses the previous trauma that they've experienced, because otherwise they would not have been leaving that MSP. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I love that analogy. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it's a very good analogy. And actually the whole password thing, like, man, that brought back memories because I managed some assets for a church for a while and I was given a list of passwords to log into different things and
Mhm.
literally every password was wrong. And so I would have to reset the password and then I would have to find out what email it was going to because no one knew. There was actually one account that I absolutely could not get into. And still to this day, it's lost. The account is. It's a YouTube. It was their YouTube channel where they would put all their sermons, and it's lost. Nobody knows the email address that it's going to. I checked with everybody, and I was like, "Sorry, guys, there's nothing we can do about this." I emailed Google, YouTube, trying to get access to it. Couldn't get it. It's lost. It's gone forever.
That's
So
so
yeah,
sad.
yeah, it was a bad situation, but yeah, so I had to end up putting all the passwords correctly into a better organization.
Something like one password, I hope.
Yeah, yeah,
Something like
something
that
like
is my platform of choice. I know there are a lot of MSPs who like Keeper because they have a fantastic MSP program. Um, it's just not. I just don't enjoy the interface or the functionality. Excuse me. I'm a Mac guy, and like with one password, I don't know. It's colorful and bubbly, and it's got
That
like
matters.
great keyboard shortcuts that I can just easily. I'm a keyboard warrior, so I'm all about keyboard
yeah. We
shortcuts.
know you're 130 words per minute. We know.
Well, but I even like if I can do something with my keyboard instead of lift my hand and go over to the trackpad, I
Yeah,
will do.
yeah. The same.
Yep.
I have hotkeys set up, but
Efficient.
not as many as you. I'm sure of it. Well, listen. I don't want to take any more of your time. I am so sorry. We have reached our limit of podcast time. So,
That's fair.
Steve, with that being said, Nancy, do you have any additional questions you'd like to ask Steve, or is it?
No, this has been a really fun conversation. I've enjoyed it a lot and learning more about you and a little bit about alternative payments and their awesome features. So, yeah, thank you for coming on. It's been great.
Yeah, for sure. And Steve, one more thing. If anybody wants to reach out to you or additional information on alternative payments or whatever that might be, what would be their best method?
Oh man, you can find me all over the place. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Reddit. You might be able to find me on Facebook. You can email me. So for LinkedIn and Reddit, my username is MFinSteve. EMEFFIN Steve. And then I try to make it easy for everyone. And then email, it's my first name, last initial, Steve T at alternativepayments.io. And if it's okay, I'd even like to. You have like show notes or something, right? So you can
Yeah,
put those in.
I'll put this in the description if that's fine.
Perfect. And then one last thing, if I may be so bold, if anybody is interested in learning more about how alternative payments can streamline your accounts receivable process, minimize the mistakes that you inevitably make when doing manual processes, or just make it so you're not doing so many manual processes and collecting your money faster, let me know. Our team would love to give you a demo. We're not going to hound you. You can get the demo. If you decide it's not for you, we write it down in Salesforce and move on. So I just want to make sure everyone knows, like we're not trying to pressure you. There's tens of thousands of MSPs. I promise we're not going to keep bugging you if it's not.
Thanks for joining us today on Tech Ties and Human Vibes. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, exclusive tips from our speakers, and more, head over to the community at sibylcommunity.com.